Have you ever walked into a place and felt completely invisible? Not like you're just floating through space unnoticed, but like you're standing there, fully present, and somehow no one acknowledges you. Before we dive in, let us know where you're watching from in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a new story. That's exactly how Karoline Leavitt felt that day. After a tense week in Washington, fending off the left-leaning press and managing internal leaks, Karoline was ready to relax. Her destination? Rio Grande, a high-end escape nestled within her husband Nicholas Rio's real estate empire. Wanting privacy, she reserved her stay under the name Karoline Wilson. She entered the grand lobby lit by crystal chandeliers expecting peace. Instead, it was noisy and unsettled. Staff buzzed around, distracted, while laughter rang out from a group. Near the counter, Karoline made her way to the front desk. Behind it stood Avery, untidy, hair dyed light blue, earbuds hanging loose, and a left-wing podcast playing faintly in the background. She smiled a bit too eagerly, scrolling her phone, pausing at a trending post filled with political hashtags. Karoline tapped the counter gently and spoke evenly. "I have a reservation under Karoline Wilson." Avery looked up, her gaze briefly scanning Karoline before freezing. Recognition flickered in her eyes. Blonde hair, that distinct voice she'd seen. "On Fox News, Karoline Wilson?" Avery repeated, her tone polite but laced with sarcasm. "Wait, you're Karoline Leavitt, right? Trump's former spokesperson?" Karoline raised an eyebrow, offering no denial. "I'm Karoline Wilson," she responded coolly. "Please check my reservation." Avery's fingers tapped the keyboard lazily. Her smile stayed, but her tone grew playfully sharp. "Sorry, ma'am. Nothing under that name. Maybe the system hasn't caught up yet. We tend to prioritize more open-minded guests." The word open-minded lingered, loaded with meaning. Karoline's lips tensed, catching the tone. "Open-minded," she echoed, voice firm. Avery beamed sweetly. "Just our way of doing things, ma'am. Hope you understand." The mood in the lobby shifted. A few guests nearby glanced over, sensing tension. Avery leaned forward, her smile unwavering, but her eyes hard. She clearly recognized Karoline from White House briefings and didn't hide her disdain. Karoline's voice lowered. "So, you're refusing me service because of my political stance?" Avery offered a small shrug, subtle but firm. "I didn't say that, ma'am," she replied, still formal, still sarcastic. "I just mentioned your reservation isn't in the system. We do have standards here. You must understand that with your Washington background." The mention of Washington came off like a quiet jab. Karoline returned a tight smile. "I understand more than you think." She pulled out her phone and opened the confirmation email. Karoline Wilson, Suite 1401, confirmed. She held the screen up. "Please, check again, or explain why it's missing." Avery gave it a quick glance. Instead of digging further, she typed aimlessly and offered another half-hearted shrug. "Sorry again, ma'am," she said sweetly. "Still nothing. Maybe the reservation was entered wrong, or someone made an update." "It happens," Avery said casually, "when guests don't match our energy." "Vibe?" Karoline interrupted, her voice low and edged with threat. "You mean turning people away because they don't fall in line with your woke agenda?" Avery blinked, momentarily unsettled, but quickly regained her composure. "I'm not refusing you, ma'am," she replied, her tone flat. "But we do prioritize guests who care about progress, things like equality, sustainability, issues that may not be on your radar, Miss Leavitt." Karoline let out a short, sharp laugh that cut through the quiet of the lobby. "My agenda?" she said coolly. "You're making this political, in my husband's hotel." Avery folded her arms, her smirk returning, though her eyes gave away. The tension. "I'm just doing my job, ma'am," she said evenly. "But if you want to talk about your husband, maybe he should fix the booking system. People like you seem better at pulling strings than solving actual problems." The comment hit like gasoline on a flame. Karoline had faced aggressive reporters and smug politicians before, but this kind of self-righteousness from a front desk clerk was something new. "Check again," she said icily, each word clipped and deliberate. Avery gave a heavy sigh, exaggerated, in its annoyance and tapped a few keys before flashing a forced smile. Still nothing, ma'am. Looks like you're not on the list. Maybe it's because we don't cater to outdated worldviews. Outdated? Karoline repeated, sarcasm thick in her tone. You mean the principles that built this country? The same ones you and your activist friends are so eager to dismantle? Avery flushed but didn't retreat. I'm not dismantling anything, she said, voice rising slightly. I'm protecting this space from people who fight diversity, oppose basic rights, and expect to bulldoze through because of who they are. Karoline straightened, her expression sharp and unwavering. Protecting this space by refusing customers based on personal bias, that's your version of freedom? Avery's lip curled, her tone turning smug. I get to decide who we serve, ma'am. And this place isn't for people like you. You should have known that, carrying the Trump press badge and all. The jab was thinly veiled, and Karoline felt the heat rise in her chest. Interesting, she said, sarcasm dripping. So you recognized me from the beginning, deleted my reservation because you don't like what I represent. Who exactly are you, Avery? A hotel receptionist or a part-time political gatekeeper? Avery blinked quickly but didn't back down. I'm just doing my job, she said. If you think I'm wrong, go ahead, prove it. Karoline stepped back slightly, her eyes locked on Avery's. She pulled out her phone again, her fingers already moving. Fine, she said, voice low and firm. Let's see what happens when you test the wrong person. Avery shrugged, but the gesture wasn't as confident as before. This time, she said, her voice wobbling slightly, I'm not afraid of you. You call this power? Karoline responded coldly. She stood tall at the counter, her sharp, blue eyes drilling into Avery, who had just tossed out her challenge. I'm waiting. The Rio Grande lobby fell silent. A few nearby guests stopped talking, their eyes shifting toward the scene, sensing that something was about to erupt. Avery remained, still arms folded, smirk glued to her face, but her words had trembled. That crack in her voice when she said, I'm not scared of you, revealed the truth behind her act. Karoline held up her phone, her fingers flying through her contacts, eyes locked on Avery, a look honed from years of dismantling opponents with calculated precision. Josh, she said when her assistant answered, her voice low and composed. I need access to Rio Grande's internal system. Front desk login. Name's Avery. Pull the activity log. Josh, always efficient, replied, without hesitation. On it, Miss Leavitt, give me a moment. The sound of rapid typing came through the phone, crisp like the lead-up to a verdict. Avery's expression faltered. Her smirk faded. What are you doing? She asked, her tone no longer coated in fake charm. Karoline cast her a steely glance. Giving you one final opportunity to admit you erased my reservation. Otherwise, I'll prove it myself. Avery's lips twitched as she attempted to mask her unease. Prove what, ma'am? She said, tone laced with sarcasm. There's no booking under your name. I don't have to participate in whatever power game you think this is. This isn't DC. No, Karoline replied, her voice sharp with irony. It's my husband's property, and you just turned it into a battleground. Big mistake. Her phone buzzed softly. A message from Josh appeared. Karoline Wilson, Suite 1401. Confirmed at 2:32 p.m. Manually deleted by Avery L. at 5:18 p.m. Below it. Google search Karoline Leavitt from the same account. Time-stamped 5:15 p.m. Karoline's lips curled into a smile, the kind worn by someone holding an ace. She turned her phone screen to face Avery. Take a look. Avery glanced down. Her face went pale as she read the line. Reservation deleted. By Avery. Her fingers tensed against the desk. That could have been a system glitch, she stammered, her voice unsteady. I didn't. Sometimes computers, Karoline cut her off and took a step closer, her eyes sharp and unrelenting. A glitch? Then why does your account show the deletion at the exact moment I was standing right here? Avery stepped back, her grip tightening on the counter. I was just checking something. she mumbled, her voice barely audible. It wasn't on purpose. You can't. Karoline let out a cold, clipped laugh. Can't prove it. I have the system log right here. She hit speaker and dialed Josh again. Read it out loud, she instructed, her tone like ice. Josh's voice rang through the lobby, even and precise. Karoline Wilson, Suite 1401, reservation confirmed at 2:32 p.m., manually deleted at 5:18 p.m. from the same account. No explanation provided. The lobby stirred. Guests nearby whispered among themselves. An older man muttered, "She's done." A younger woman looked stunned, but stayed quiet. Karoline ended the call and stared directly at Avery. You saw who I was and erased my booking because of your bias. This isn't a system error, Avery. It's discrimination, hidden behind a mask of progress. Avery opened her mouth, but no words came. Her face was ghostly pale, hands trembling. I didn't, she began, but Karoline stepped in again. Didn't what? Karoline pushed, voice hard. Didn't mean to? You recognized me immediately and decided to make a point because I don't align with your so-called open-minded beliefs. Are you a hotel receptionist or an activist hijacking my husband's business to push your own agenda? Avery backed away slightly, panic flashing in her eyes. You don't understand, she said weakly. I just wanted to protect this space from people like you. People who ruin what we've fought for. Ruin, Karoline repeated, sarcasm thick in her voice. You're not protecting anything. You denied service based on personal politics. The very thing you accuse others of. That's not progress, that's hypocrisy. She raised her phone, the system log still glowing on the screen like a final judgment. Avery swallowed hard, her eyes flicking toward the exits. You can't fire me over this, she said, her voice trembling. I have my rights. Karoline snapped, her cold smile returning. But your rights end where mine begin. You want to play politics with me? Fine, but now the game's... She swiped her phone and dialed. Nick, she said as he picked up, her voice crisp. I need you at Rio Grande. Right now. There's something you need to see. Nicholas Racchio's deep, steady voice came through. I'm on my way. Wait, what's going on? Karoline's eyes bored into Avery. One of your employees just refused me service because she doesn't like my politics. There was a pause. Then Nicholas said, I'll be there in 10. Stay put. Karoline hung up and placed her phone. On the counter, gaze never wavering. Avery stood frozen, her face pale and hands trembling. You can't do this, she whispered. I was just doing my job. Karoline tilted her head slightly, voice dropping to a commanding tone. No, Avery. You turned your job into a weapon, and now you'll face the consequences. She turned to the lobby, her voice projecting like she was at a press conference. Does anyone here think denying a guest service over politics is progressive? Speak up. Silence. Only Avery's ragged breathing could be heard. An older man clapped softly and muttered, She's right. A younger woman shook her head but said nothing. Karoline turned back to Avery, eyes like ice. You picked the wrong fight, and when my husband gets here, you'll understand the cost of your arrogance. The lobby fell into a tense hush, broken only by hushed murmurs, some curious, some appalled, others thrilled to witness the unfolding drama. Avery swallowed hard, her face drained of color. You can't do this, she said again, barely above a whisper. Karoline's lip curled. I didn't do anything, Avery mumbled. You did. The echo of leather shoes rang through the marble floor, measured, decisive. Nicholas Racchio entered, tall and commanding in a dark gray suit, silver-streaked hair and sharp brown eyes that scanned the room like a hawk. The crowd parted instinctively, some recognizing the man behind the Rio Grande brand. He walked directly to the front desk, eyes first landing on Karoline, then shifting to Avery. What's happening? He asked. His voice was deep, calm, but without room for games. Karoline turned to him, her tone cool but edged. Your employee refused me service, Nick. Because she didn't like my views. She deleted my reservation. I have the log right here. She held up her phone. The screen still displayed, reservation for Karoline Wilson, Suite 1401. Manually deleted by Avery L. at 5:18 p.m. Nicholas's brow furrowed, his expression hardening as he looked at Avery. Is this real? Avery blinked, hands slowly retreating. From the counter. I didn't, she began. He cut her off, voice like steel. I'm not asking if you meant to. I'm asking if this log is real. Avery hesitated, eyes darting for an exit. It was a system error, she said, her voice shaking. I didn't mean, Karoline interjected, her tone sharp with sarcasm. A system error? While I stood right in front of you? The log shows you searched my name, then deleted my reservation. Want me to read it out again? She raised her phone, thumb ready to tap speaker. Enough, Nicholas said, raising a hand. He turned to Avery, voice firm. What do you have to say for yourself? Avery straightened slightly, voice rising defensively. I was just doing my job, sir. She doesn't fit our vibe. She's against everything we represent. Diversity, fairness, progress. I have my rights. Nicholas's voice dropped, dangerously. Quiet. Your rights? This is my hotel, not your personal platform. You were hired to serve guests, not to judge them. Avery flushed, her eyes panicked. But she's Karoline Leavitt. She stands for everything we've fought against. Nicholas's face hardened. She's my wife, he said evenly, the words slicing like a blade. And you just denied her service in my hotel. You think that was smart? The lobby buzzed with whispers. His wife? Murmurs rippled through the guests. But Nicholas didn't flinch. His focus stayed locked on Avery. Karoline stepped beside him, voice low but resolute. She didn't just refuse me, Nick. She turned your hotel into a stage for her ideals. She thinks she gets to decide who stays here based on politics, Karoline said, her voice sharp. Nicholas nodded, eyes still locked on Avery. So it's true, he said, his tone flat, like a gavel falling. You're done. Avery stepped back, her face drained of color. What do you mean? She stammered. Nicholas advanced, standing firmly at the counter, his voice rising so the entire lobby could hear. You're fired, right now. Pack your things and leave within 10 minutes, or I'll have security escort you out. The lobby erupted. An older man clapped, muttering, Good riddance. A younger woman called out, That's reverse discrimination, but Nicholas didn't flinch. His eyes stayed cold. Avery's mouth fell open, her eyes rimmed with red. You can't do this, she shouted, her voice cracking. I have rights. This is my space. Karoline cut in, her voice like a blade. Your space? This is my husband's hotel, not your progressive playground. If you want to wage ideological wars, do it somewhere else. Avery spun toward her, rage boiling in her expression. You're a dictator. You think you can just use power to control people. Karoline smiled, slow and cold. I'm not using power. I'm responding to yours. You weaponized your position. This is the consequence, Avery. Not domination. Nicholas gave a firm nod, his voice cutting through the room. You heard her. Get out. Avery stood frozen, her hands shaking, tears spilling over her cheeks. You'll regret this, she choked out. The left won't let this slide. Nicholas shrugged, voice sharp and final. Let them try. Now go. Avery stumbled backward, then turned and fled behind the front desk, her sobs echoing down the hallway. The lobby burst into chaos again. Some guests clapped and shouted, She deserved it. Another with green-dyed hair yelled, This is oppression. I'm posting this on X. Phones went up everywhere, flashes popping, voices rising like a protest rally. Nicholas turned to a nearby employee, eyes like steel, voice low and lethal. Get the manager now. I want to know why this happened under his nose. Without him having a clue. The employee paled instantly and nodded, bolting like a man fleeing a thunderstorm. The Rio Grande lobby slowly settled. Avery's cries faded behind the closed staff door, and the crowd began to disperse, though several guests kept filming, whispering about what they'd just witnessed. Karoline stood beside Nicholas, her piercing blue eyes scanning the room. that cold smile still curling at her lips. Nicholas slowly lowered his hand from her shoulder. His dark eyes hardened as he turned to the same employee returning from the back. "Where is he?" Nicholas asked, his voice low but seething with threat. The young man swallowed, face flushed with fear. Sweat dotted his forehead. Mr. Hensley's coming, Mr. Rachio. He's in the back office." Nicholas nodded once, his stare unrelenting. "Good. Tell him to hurry. I don't wait long." Karoline leaned in slightly, her voice low and sharp. "Enough to draw blood. I want to know who allowed this to happen on his watch, Nick. Avery didn't act alone." Nicholas gave a small, grim nod. "We're rooting this out. All of it." The staff door swung open. Mark Hensley stepped out, a middle-aged man with thinning hair and a wrinkled gray suit that looked slept in. His eyes darted nervously between Nicholas and Karoline, both standing like twin judges at the bench. "Mr. Rachio." "Miss Leavitt," he stammered, forcing a weak smile. I just heard, is there a problem?" Karoline stepped forward, her eyes sharp and unrelenting. "A problem?" she echoed, voice dripping with sarcasm. "Your employee refused me service because of my politics. She deleted my reservation. She turned this hotel into her personal soapbox. Is that a problem to you, Mr. Hensley?" Mark blinked rapidly, wiping sweat from his brow. I'm so sorry, Miss Leavitt. I didn't know that happened." Nicholas cut him off, his voice heavy and cold. "You didn't know? You're the manager. How do you not know what your own staff is doing right in the lobby?" Mark stepped back, eyes darting, looking for a way out. I was in the office, sir. I can't see everything at once. Avery, she's new. Maybe she misunderstood policy." "Misunderstood?" Karoline snapped, her voice slicing the air. "She didn't misunderstand a thing. She intentionally deleted my booking because she doesn't like me. I have the system logs to prove this isn't some random error." "Mark, your system allowed this behavior," Karoline said, holding up her phone, the screen still showing the evidence Josh had provided. Mark swallowed hard, his voice shaking. "I'll look into it, Miss Leavitt, I promise." Nicholas stepped forward, his expression dark. "Look into it. It already happened, and you let it. Do you even understand what this hotel represents? This is my property, not a place for your staff to play political games." Mark lowered his head, his hands nervously twisting. "Mr. Riccio, I didn't encourage anything. I just didn't want any conflict with the staff. Avery, she's strong-willed, but I believed she'd eventually adjust." Karoline's voice rang out across the lobby, cutting in sharply. "Adjust? She refused to serve me in front of everyone, and you thought she'd just adapt? Are you managing this place or just holding a title, Mark?" Mark flushed, his eyes full of panic. "I did try to guide her, Miss Leavitt, but she has strong personal views. She spoke about freedom and diversity, and I didn't want to risk legal issues for challenging those beliefs." "Freedom?" Karoline repeated, her tone soaked in sarcasm. "She used freedom as an excuse to treat me differently, because I don't match her political views. And you allowed it because you were afraid of conflict. Is this what you've let this hotel become?" Mark shrank back, his voice faint. "I didn't mean for it to go this way, Miss Leavitt. I was just trying to keep things calm." Nicholas cut in. "Really? That's not peace, Mark. You let an employee insult my wife because you were unwilling to step in. That's not maintaining peace. It's weakness." Mark's head dropped as sweat rolled down his cheeks. "I'm sorry, Mr. Riccio. I'll fix this." Karoline stepped in, her expression cold. "Fix it? You allowed all this under your watch, and you didn't even know about it until my husband had to come handle it. Do you understand the cost of your inaction?" Mark looked up, his eyes desperate. "Please, Miss Leavitt, I need this job. I have a family." Karoline moved closer, her voice low and firm. "I don't care what you need. What matters is that my husband's hotel became a joke because you didn't do your job. You let Avery behave like she was in charge, and you stood by." Mark shook his head, his voice trembling. "I'll change. I'll take stricter control. Just give me a chance." Nicholas looked at Karoline, waiting. She gave a small nod, though her voice stayed firm. "All right, Mark. One chance. But if I hear even one more complaint about your staff turning guests away over political nonsense, It won't just be your job on the line. You'll lose everything you've built here. Mark nodded quickly, sweat dripping to the floor. Thank you, Miss Leavitt. Thank you, Mr. Riccio. I won't let this happen again. Karoline turned to Nicholas and spoke in a quiet tone. What do you think, Nick? Nicholas shrugged, his gaze fixed on Mark. I'll give him a chance, but he has to prove he's not incompetent. He turned to Mark, voice firm. Replace Avery. And this time, make sure the new hire is properly vetted. I don't want anyone else thinking they can turn my hotel into a political platform. Understood? Mark's eyes widened in fear. Yes, sir, I'll handle it right away. Karoline's gaze stayed cold. Good. But I'll be watching you, Mark. Don't disappoint me again. Mark bowed his head, muttering, I won't, Miss Leavitt. He quickly turned and walked back to his office, looking like someone who had narrowly escaped disaster. Karoline pulled her phone from her coat pocket. The screen lit up with a stream of notifications from the app she used to monitor public response and left-leaning media. Nicholas looked over, his deep brown eyes curious. Anything interesting? He asked softly. Karoline's lips curled into a small, cold smile. Oh, you're going to like this, she said, scrolling through the flood of alerts. Within minutes of Avery's dismissal, the event had gone viral. The hashtag #YarKaroline Liberal Receptionist was trending at number 3. Short videos recorded by lobby guests were circulating, capturing Avery's outburst and Karoline's calm but sharp response, like a press conference at the White House. The first video Karoline opened was posted by a user named Patriot Mike 76. The caption read, Karoline Leavitt takes down a leftist receptionist in her husband's hotel. This is real America. The clip featured Nicholas firing Avery, the audience applauding, and Karoline ending the exchange with a clear, firm statement. The comments were full of support. She's a legend. Leftists lose again. Don't mess with Karoline. Her eyes glinted with satisfaction as she watched the likes and shares climb. Nicholas leaned in, watching with her. His voice deepened. They're quick. You're more famous than I thought, Karoline shrugged. I'm used to being watched and disliked. She opened another post, this time from a left-leaning account called Blue Wave Rises. The caption read, Karoline Leavitt abuses her power to fire a worker who dared to speak out. This is what conservatism looks like. The attached video focused on Avery crying. The comment section was filled with outrage. She's a victim. This is authoritarianism. Cancel Riccio Grand. Karoline looked at the screen, her expression calm, the faint smile still in place. Karoline let out a brief, sharp laugh. Victim, she repeated, her voice thick with contempt. She canceled my reservation because she disagreed with my views, and now they're calling me the oppressor. Typical leftist reasoning. Nicholas nodded, his eyes flashing with agreement. They always try to turn the wrongdoer into the hero, but you've got the proof. Karoline gave a slight nod as she scrolled on her phone. Exactly, and I won't let them twist this. She opened a post from Real News Now, a well-known conservative account. Karoline Leavitt proves the left can't handle the truth. Liberal receptionist refuses her service, gets fired on the spot. This is a win for real freedom. The post included a photo of Karoline holding her phone with the system log on display. The comments flooded in. She doesn't back down. Trump should be proud. Leftists crying again. Karoline smiled, her eyes lighting up as the retweets surged, topping 5,000 in just 20 minutes. But not everyone was pleased. An account called Justice for Avery posted a video of Avery leaving the hotel, tears streaming down her face, with the caption, Avery fired for standing up to Karoline Leavitt, a power-hungry bully who can't handle dissent. Boycott Riccio Grand. The comments were furious. She was just defending her values. Karoline's a bully. This is reverse discrimination. Karoline raised an eyebrow, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Defending her values by refusing. Me service, they should look up bully in the dictionary. Nicholas looked at her, amusement in his eyes. What are you going to do about this, he asked. Karoline swiped her finger across the screen, her voice low but determined. I'll let them dig their own grave. The truth is clear. She was wrong, and I have proof. The more they scream, the more they expose their own hypocrisy. She opened the X app and typed a tweet. Avery refused me service over my politics. Got fired for her actions, not me. This is consequence, not oppression. Karoline V's liberal receptionist. She hit send, her eyes flashing as the tweet instantly gained dozens of likes. Within minutes, it went viral. Conservatives shared it widely, with comments like, "She's right, don't let the left twist the truth." But the liberals quickly responded. A progressive account replied, "Karoline Leavitt thinks she's above the law. Firing a worker for differing beliefs is tyranny." Karoline scrolled past, her expression cold. "Above the law?" she muttered. "She broke hotel policy, not me." She turned to Nicholas, her voice steady. "They won't stop, Nick, but neither will I." Nicholas nodded, his gaze darkening. "I don't care about the online noise. I just want my hotel free of these political stunts." Karoline smirked faintly, her eyes sweeping over the lobby. "Don't worry. After today, no one will dare try again, not under our roof." Her phone buzzed relentlessly with new notifications. A post from MAGA Warrior popped up. "Karoline Leavitt is the conservative queen. Took down a leftist receptionist and made them cry online. Double win." Karoline smiled lightly, her eyes gleaming with satisfaction. But then she paused at a post from Left United, a progressive account. "We stand with Avery. Karoline Leavitt and her husband represent elite oppression. In us, justice for Avery." Karoline's lip curled, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Elite? I just wanted a room." Nicholas placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice calm but deep. "You won, Karoline. They can shout all they want, but the truth doesn't change." She nodded, her eyes fixed on the screen. "True, and I'll make sure they don't forget it." She scrolled to one final tweet from that real Karoline fan. She didn't just defend herself. She defended us all from woke insanity. "Thank you, Karoline." Karoline smiled, her eyes flashing with victory. Not just personal, political. She and Nicholas made their way across the Rio Grande lobby, heading for the elevator to the suite level, where they could discuss their next steps in private. The elevator doors closed, casting a soft golden light on Karoline's face. Still, sharp but slightly softened. "Mark's a bigger problem than Avery," she said quietly. "He's weak, letting the staff run wild like they own the place. We can't let him keep doing that." Nicholas shrugged, his eyes fixed on the doors. "He's got a chance to fix it, but if you want change, just let me know." The elevator opened into a luxurious suite with polished wood floors, large windows, overlooking the lobby, and a small bar stocked with Nicholas's favorite whiskey. He poured 2 glasses and handed one to Karoline, his eyes expectant. She took a sip before setting it down with a faint clink. Her voice was firm. "I don't want risks, Nick. Mark's not strong enough to manage. He let Avery turn this hotel into a joke before we stepped in," Karoline said, her voice cold. "But if you want to give him a shot, there have to be conditions." Nicholas nodded, his eyes glinting with agreement. "Fine. I'll give him one shot, but he has to prove it." Karoline walked toward the window, her gaze sweeping across the now empty lobby. "Not just Mark," she said, her voice low and resolute. "We need to change how things are run here. Hire new people, ones who work, not ones using this hotel as a soapbox. Tighter background checks, clearer policies, no tolerating political games." Nicholas sat in a leather chair sipping whiskey. His eyes were fixed on her. "Got a specific plan yet?" Karoline turned to him, her eyes blazing with resolve. "Yes, I want you to set terms with Mark. Either he controls his staff, or he's out. If we keep him, bring in someone tough from my Washington team, someone who worked with me under Trump. They know how to keep order." Nicholas nodded, a spark of interest in his eyes. "I trust you. But I want Mark reporting directly to me." "No." "Middleman, deal?" Karoline's voice was sharp. "Deal. And I want a new policy. Any staff refusing service over personal or political reasons gets fired on the spot. No excuses. This is a hotel, not an ideological battlefield." Nicholas smirked faintly, his eyes darkening. "I like that. I'll Have legal draft it by morning. Anything else? Karoline moved closer, sitting across from him, her eyes never leaving his. I want to send a message, not just here, but across your whole hotel chain. After Avery, people need to know the cost of challenging us. Nicholas tilted his head, curiosity in his eyes. What do you mean? Karoline's lip curled, her voice low and menacing. I'll work with the PR team to post an official statement on X and your channels. Anyone pulling an Avery stunt gets no second chances, here or anywhere. She took another sip of whiskey, her eyes lighting with approval. You play hard, Nicholas said, his voice deep. But I like it, I'll sign off on it, go for it. Karoline nodded slightly, scanning the room. Good, and I want you to personally oversee Mark. Make sure he doesn't screw up again. Nicholas nodded, setting his glass down. Done. I'll watch him. They sat in silence for a moment, the suite heavy with power. Karoline stood, walking to the bar, pouring another whiskey. Today wasn't just a lesson for Avery or Mark, she said, her voice strong. It was for anyone thinking they can exploit us. Nicholas rose, stepping beside her, eyes locked on hers. I know, and you handled it well, like always. Karoline turned. To him, her eyes gleaming with satisfaction. We're a team, Nick. I protect you here like in Washington. Nicholas placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice deep but warm. I never doubted that. After today, no one will doubt us either. Karoline smiled, her eyes blazing with victory. Exactly. They'll remember the cost of crossing us. Nicholas nodded, his eyes sweeping the window to the lobby below. I'll issue. The orders now. Monitor Mark, hire new staff. Update policies, you handle PR. Karoline nodded slightly, her eyes fixed on him. I will. By tomorrow, the world will know Riccio Grande isn't a playground for ideological nonsense. Nicholas smirked faintly, his eyes darkening. Good, now rest, you've earned it. Karoline turned back to him, her gaze locked on his. Today wasn't just about Avery or Mark, Nick, she said, her voice low but powerful. It's about what we stand for, real American values. Nicholas nodded slightly, his eyes darkening. You're right, and we proved it. Karoline's lip curled, her cold smile returning. I want them to remember forever. She stepped to the table, picking up the remaining whiskey glass, sipping it, then setting it down with a faint clink. I've seen it in Washington. People, like Avery, think they can use ideals to justify arrogance and shut others out, while calling themselves victims. Today, we showed them the cost of that. Nicholas stood beside her, eyes agreeing. You did, and I'll make sure it doesn't happen again. Not here. Not in any of my hotels. Karoline nodded, her eyes blazing with resolve. Good. But this isn't just about the hotel, Nick. It's a win for people like us, the ones who believe in real freedom, not the fake kind the left preaches. She turned to the window, her voice low but resounding like a White House briefing. Avery thought she could challenge me because I don't fit her open-minded mold. She was wrong, and now she knows the price of arrogance. The story of Karoline. Leavitt booking a room at her husband's hotel, only to face rejection from a liberal receptionist, reflects the deep cultural divide in America, where conservative and liberal ideologies often clash in public and private spaces. Karoline, a conservative White House press secretary, faces off with Avery, who refuses her service due to her politics. Avery justifies this as an act of open-mindedness and personal freedom, but the situation quickly escalates as Karoline uses system logs to expose Avery's actions, leading to her immediate firing. The couple then enforces their authority by updating hotel policies and sending a strong message through X, as the polarized reactions on social media reflect today's political divide. Karoline's calm reliance on evidence to fight back shows the value of preparation and reason when challenged, a vital skill in today's America, where political disputes can erupt anywhere, from coffee shops to social media. Nicholas and Karoline's decision to fire Mark for his weakness reinforces the idea that leadership must take accountability and not tolerate negligence. It serves as a reminder that ignoring small issues can lead to larger consequences. Finally, Karoline's call for Americans to stand firm in their values and defend them with action, not just words, resonates deeply in a nation where every action can spark outrage online. In a culture where silence rarely wins, Karoline's message is clear. Stand tall, wield truth, and never shy from consequences.